Hey, what's going on, guys? Fizz here once again. This is going to be the final closing thoughts video regarding the Fireburst Flameblast Elementalist that I did. This is going to showcase the final upgrades I had for the build between the time that I ripped and the last diary update. Not a whole lot changed, but there were a few changes. So things off the top. Before I go into the final thoughts of the build and everything, obviously the character died. It's now in standard. So I'm not going to do map previews or anything like that. So let me go ahead and turn all my auras on. All right. So in the final build, I ended up using the Cirrus helmet. I divined it to get the max roll. I definitely think this is worth using. This helmet is so good this patch because of the buffs to armor and evasion. Getting over 1,000 armor on your helmet is insane because, as you can see, it's basically like having a second chest piece. Very nice. It's a massive raw HP increase, as you can see, 400 health and about 400 ES as well. So just from my helmet, around 800 raw HP is not bad at all. The biggest upgrade that I got between the final diary update and the time that I died was these hunter gloves. They're really nice. So tier 2 life is okay. Got some resistances which were sorely needed, and then tier 1 fire dot multi, and then crafted on increased damage while leeching. If you're wondering what the uptime on the increased damage while leeching was, is actually up quite a lot. It's super easy. During boss fights and stuff, you're never at really 100% HP. Think Cirrus, even the degens on the ground all over the place and stuff like that. You're always taking very tiny hits, even if you're not getting chunked, right? So and then obviously while mapping, you don't really need that damage, but it can be up a big chunk of the time because it's not like you're using ghost shrouds or anything on the build. But I think that was the only massive change between the last update. I guess the chest piece as well. I did end up replacing the whatever it's called, the sacrificial garb, or whatever the base is from Aziri is called. That gives +1 to all skills. Simply because I got a really nice Veritania chest piece crafted up. Very, very good. So it's got 27 strength with the 106 life, which is basically tier 2 or low tier 1 life, because 27 strength is 13 more HP. 13 plus 6 is 19, so it's 119 life on the chest piece there. And then frenzy charge on hits, why we're using it. Obviously Fireburst hits all the time. Even while bossing, you will always have maximum frenzy charges. If you're wondering why I'm using this over the +1 to all vol skills, simply put, 3 frenzy charges, even just pure damage sheet DPS wise, is worth more than +1 to Flameblast. Also worth noting that globally, the frenzy charges give me damage to not just the Flameblast, but the Fireburst and everything else as well. And on top of that, it will increase the damage of your, where is it? I forgot I changed them around. The Flame Surge dot. And it also gives you cast speed, which is super, super nice. That helps a ton with the build. I wasn't completely finished with the build at the time of death. I was only level 94, but I spent a lot of time bossing. Basically what I was doing on the character was just doing Cirrus rotations ad nauseum. We fought Cirrus plenty of times. Once I got the frenzy charge on hit chest piece and these crazy gloves for damage, and then got some of my gems leveled up a little bit, the damage, Cirrus, piece of cake. I didn't get to fight him on A8. The highest I fought him was A6, and even then it was only a 5.5 minute fight. Which is not bad at all for an ignite build. Super solid. I was actually very, very, very pleasantly surprised with the build. The weapon, again, not perfect. If you don't know how I crafted this weapon, basically I just got Fireburst on hit. I didn't get anything else, so I crafted on suffixes cannot be changed, and then hit it with a veiled chaos orb, unveiled fire dot multi, and crafted on % fire damage. If I didn't have the life gain for enemy hit by attacks, I could multi-mod this and then put on the fire damage and fire damage gained as chaos, and that would be a like massive buff, especially to the Fireburst ignite, which would help a lot for mapping. But yeah, I mean, this build completely tore apart tier 16 maps. Bossing was a little slow but pretty comfortable, especially after I got some of the damage upgrades. Like I said, the chest piece and the gloves was absolutely ripping apart Cirrus. Also worth noting that on Cirrus I did have to give up 5 whole passive points to get CB immune from tree because I still don't have a jewel, which were taken out from damage nodes, so you could have even more damage there. Overall, I'll put the final POB down in the description. Do I recommend playing this? Yes, it was very fun. I think the build was a huge success. It did a lot better than what I was initially expecting it to. It was quite fun. In terms of strength, it is very, very good for mapping. In terms of endgame bossing, it's actually pretty solid there too. The damage is a little bit on the low side, but obviously it is an ignite build. And you do have basically 100% uptime on your damage. If you don't want to manually cast Flameblast, you don't have to. You don't have to get these off in boss fights at all. What you can do is basically you just worry about keeping up Arcanist Brand on the boss, and then you will just get Vol Flameblast and use that whenever it's on cooldown, and you're good. The one big gripe I have about the build is basically how EO works now. I might make it a whole video around EO and why I hate it this patch, but you really feel it on this build because simply if my EO procs when I pop Vol Flameblast, that's awesome. I get a bunch of more damage. If I don't, I'm just really sad. And how that effectively ends up for normal Flameblast while bossing is I run up to the boss and I just until I hit EO, and it's so frustrating, man. It's so annoying. And the worst part is that Vol Flameblast and Flameblast have separate Ellie Overload instances, buffs, whatever. So if I proc Ellie Overload on Flameblast, Vol Flameblast does not get it, and vice versa. It feels terrible. I think if they're going to keep EO how it currently is, channeling ignite skills need to get increased crit chance with channel stages, right? Like, so Divine Ire and Flameblast should get increased crit strike chance the higher stage you get. I feel like it's only fair because playing the game like this and just waiting until I proc EO and then channeling is just super degenerate gameplay. It's not like interesting at all. It's just massively frustrating while bossing. I also think that Vol skills and the base skill should 100% share EO. I know that was probably not like an intentional thing. They probably didn't really think about it because they're like technically like coded as like separate. I think to my understanding, they're actually coded as like separate gyms. So it makes sense they wouldn't share the same like the same buff effect. But that 100%, whether it is in the end intentional or not, that 100% should be fixed. They should share the same thing. If I proc EO on Flameblast, Vol Flameblast should get it and vice versa. It's completely ridiculous that it works that way. Aside from that minor gripe, I think the build is super strong. Again, worth noting that if you're playing this build in softcore or you want to play this build in softcore, if you're okay with like having less defense, you can take out a bunch of these block nodes. Like there's the full wheel here. There's the wheel here, the nodes here, the nodes here, and the nodes here. You can get rid of all those and go into cluster jewels or more damage and deal way more damage than what I have here. Just obviously playing hardcore. Block, more defensive layers, helps a lot. In the end though, I definitely think this is a build worth playing. If you are in SSF and you are interested in playing this build, you can do one of two things. If you don't yet have Fireburst, or if you want to do like a fresh start or something like that, you don't need Fireburst to play this build. You can still go staves if you want to, even without the Fireburst. Staves are insane, especially for Ignite. They give a lot of damage, and now with like the block nodes and stuff for hardcore, it's not like really inting to go staves like it was in the past. You can get a very respectable amount of block and other nice bonuses from using staves. So what would I recommend? You can either go pure Flameblast and just clear like that. I did it. I tested it. Even in high reds, it was still fine. You can basically all packs, you can just run around and clear like that. And to give you an idea, just tapping like in the middle of the map device, I would hit about this outer ring here. The AoE on like the Ignite Prolif AoE with Heart of Destruction increased AoE is absolutely ridiculous. It felt amazing. So you do not need Fireburst at all to play this build. If you don't want to use Fireburst, don't feel pressured to use it at all. And if you're foregoing Fireburst or you don't have it yet, you do not need to use Herald of Thunder. That is only to proc Fireburst. Also worth noting, if you're fighting Cirrus or the like I've said in past videos, just turn Herald of Thunder off. It doesn't do anything for you in those fights. So, if you're not using it, you can fit in like Clarity and Vitality instead. Because if you're not going Fireburst, I don't really think it's worth it to go Leech. I think Regen is probably the way to go if you're not using Fireburst, because the constant hints of like Herald of Thunder and Fireburst are really what supply a large amount of your Leech, especially like while mapping and while bossing, so you can like dodge around and do mechanics while getting the free Leech from that. If you're not going Fireburst, I don't think the Leech is worth it. Just drop Herald of Thunder and use that extra mana you have for like Vitality, and then you can also spend a passive point grabbing the mana reservation efficiency as well. Beyond that, if you don't want to go pure Flameblast, you can use the second 6-link here for Armor Brand. You can use this as Armor Brand as well. You don't need to do Fireburst. You can just stay Armor Brand the whole time if you really want to, and use that for clearing as well. So it's really, yeah, up in the air. Whatever you decide to do, you can play it as pure Flameblast or use an Armor Brand and another like 4, 5, 6-link here on the staff and clear that way instead, the whole way through, or just until you get Fireburst, depending on what you do. Really, it's pretty not variable, but flexible. You can do kind of like whatever you want there, and still the build will still function mostly the same. Should still be quite fun. If you do go Armor Brand, Leech is again an option, especially because you'll be using Immolate and stuff like that with it. So you'll be able to get like some decent chunky hits in there for the Leech, which should be constantly proccing because Armor Brand hits very frequently. But yeah, this is pretty much it. Final thoughts of the build. Pretty big success. Was very fun to play. It had a lot of room for gearing and crafting. I really like builds that have like a lot of room to really grow and scale. As you can tell, running a lot of influence pieces. There's a ton of stuff you could do to take the build even further. And like I said, a lot more damage you could get if you gave up the block nodes on the tree if you're playing this software trade or software SSF. And you've been following along the build. Anywho, would I play it again? Yeah, sure. It was super fun. Had a blast. Got to actually use Flameblast. I mean, I saw the comment saying that it's not technically a real Flameblast build because it uses Fireburst to supplement clear. Hey, you don't have to use Fireburst if you don't want to. This would function largely the same if you only use Flameblast. But Fireburst is really fun, and I wanted to play around with that at the same time. Simply because I didn't play Fireburst in its heyday in Ultimatum, I think it was. I didn't play it then, so I decided I'd try playing it now since they buffed it back up a little bit. Final thoughts. I don't know, at least in hardcore, I don't think going pure Fireburst is really viable. I've seen a few POBs that people have shown me, but I'm not super convinced. I think if you want to play Fireburst, you do need a single target S skill, like Flameblast, to help supplement it for bossing, because Fireburst is pretty easy DPS for bosses. In this build, it serves its function perfectly. I super happy with it, but for going like pure Fireburst, maybe in softcore you can make it work with just the like raw amount of damage you can get in softcore, but for hardcore I don't think it's really viable. That's just my impression. Anyway, that's it. Physics Risk Rehab build added to the graveyard, but honestly had a blast with this build. Super fun playing it. Would recommend it. Would 100% play it again. And yeah, that's it for this video, guys. If you liked this build diary, or you have like other stuff you want to see me play, or you're playing this along, you know, with me or whatever, and you have like any feedback or even like questions about the build, sure, let me know in the comments. I read them all. Anywho, that's going to be it for this one. Thanks for tuning in, and I will see you guys in the next one. Peace, guys. Take it easy.